I wrote a note, and it's all about reclaiming routines that prioritize presence versus pressure.
Ooh.
And welcome back.
Hey, yo. What's going on? We're back.
The,
Another episode. We're guestless this week, though.
yeah, it's a little different now, and I was so happy. I got used to it a little bit, and then I was
It
like,
was
oh,
so nice. Shout out to Rick again for coming on. I love talking to him. It's
yeah,
a good episode. But yeah, now it's just you and me.
back to it
That's
until
fine.
until the next guest. Until the next guest.
Well, eventually it will only be guests. It'll never just be the two of
Oh,
us.
because you don't like talking to just me, huh?
No, I think it will be, but those episodes will be special later on
Hmm,
because it won't happen all the time.
that's true. Um,
Anywho,
Today's a little different. No,
mm.
it's not. It's the same, but I tend to say that every time.
It's a little different. Well, I mean, it's not the exact same, so technically it is a little
It is a
different.
little different. We're talking about you probably heard it, the fear of slowing down.
Mm,
Now I feel like we touch on a lot of like previous episodes about this idea of like being present. Now
mm,
why I
mm,
wanted to talk about the fear of slowing down is because I feel like there's always like a sense of like weakness that's tied
hmm
to when people kind of like take that pause or like take a beat to take a breath and reflect. But I feel like it's important to do so because you often find a lot more you gain a lot more clarity and a sense
Yeah.
of like why you're doing what you're doing when you take breaths or beats or breaks.
Yeah.
When you pile up and your schedule is super packed and busy, I feel like a lot of people don't really like look at what they're doing from a different lens. And I feel like it's
hmm
often important to look at things. We always talk about when you're doing projects or whatever, like look at it from two different perspectives. And I feel like taking a breath really allows you to look at things with a new perspective, especially what you're doing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I think that's so true. Like we always talk about paying attention to the small things, the
Yeah.
mundane. When you're always just going, you're rushing to the next thing. Sometimes you don't even enjoy the process of what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? I hate talking about school all the time, but that I'm literally just about to graduate, so that is top of mind right now. I was always rushing from one class to the next. So you just want to get them done and you want to do them as fast as possible. I
Yeah.
know people watching, I didn't do any of my readings ever, really. How can I shorten this information, make it as consumable as possible, get what I need, do the assignment, throw it away, and move on, and
Yeah.
not actually slow down? And why am I doing the assignment? What's the purpose behind it? Is there intent to what I'm doing? Uh, so I agree. Like slowing down it can be a good thing sometimes.
Yeah, it also like reminds me of like I think of like taking breaks like silence. Like a lot of
Mm,
people are afraid. Like I'm me included. I'm afraid of silence so much so
hmm
that like in conversations, whenever there's like no one talking, I'm trying to like fill that silence. And I've
mm,
been told so many times that. And I feel like a lot of people are who like tend to fill silence. Is that it's not you don't need to fill silence. Sometimes it's important for silence to take. In fact, you told me once that like we can take a breath sometimes and not be
yeah,
sound. That was one of the things I learned when I don't know if you remember shout out from a previous episode that I started practicing like how to communicate in certain ways in front of a mirror.
yeah.
And that was a big hump that I was facing was that I'd fill it with like and yas and mhms because I just
hmm
hated silence and I feel like sometimes it's important to have. Um, I want to shift to some of the questions because I feel like there's some guiding questions that we kind of jotted down, and I feel like it's important to touch on them. I'm gonna start by asking you this, and then I'll come to me, and I have a story that I wanna sort of touch on, and it's what are we running from when we keep ourselves busy all the time?
There's a couple angles you could take at this. If you want to get super deep and philosophical, I think some people just don't like themselves. And if they have time to sit and actually think, they're going to go to dark places that they don't want to go, think about things
Mm,
that they don't want to think. And maybe
okay.
it's not that they don't like themselves, it's that they just don't want to think about that stuff.
Yeah.
Like some bullshit that happened when you were a kid, or your parent pissed you off, or something happened where but you don't want to think about that. So if you keep going, if
Yeah.
you're always doing something, and it's not when I'm talking about continuing to go, I'm not meaning pedal to the metal the entire time, but you're consistently go, go, go. You don't take a moment to reflect or
Yeah.
to think or to look at any situation you've had and to improve on. And I think a lot of times you don't want to deal with anything that might pop up.
Yeah.
There's also, I think, in today's world, this hustle culture. Now, I'm not. I completely. If you have something you fucking want, go for it. 100% of the time. Like, you figure out what you want, you decide how to get to it, and then do it. But that creates a sense of failure if you're not doing something all the time. So by continuing to go and not slowing down, maybe you're like, "Oh, I'm actually doing something." But
Mm.
are you actually doing something or are you just bullshitting?
Yeah.
Are you going fast or are you just doing stupid shit to make it feel like you're actually doing something?
Yeah.
You're actually being productive, but in reality you're doing nothing. It's
Right.
just a waste of time.
I feel like when you take beats, it also gives you like I it kind of reminded me of what when you were talking at the start. Like it also gives you a sense of like closure. Like
Hmm.
immediately when I think of like previous like relationships that have like romantic relationships, especially like that of like my friends, and when they sort of dive into something else without taking
Hmm.
a breath to process exactly what happened, maybe why it happened. I feel like they often tend to it starts them on like not a road to success. Like you start at a not the best place. And I feel like it's another important reason as to why we should take breaths. Why I sort of wanted to touch on this topic is because I'm at a point where the job market is like really shit right now. Um, like
Understatement of the year, man.
um,
My God.
and there's like I see so much content and like people around me who are like I'm gonna go for a master's
Mm.
rather than even like try to apply for the job market because it's like I don't want to be unemployed. So and it like baffles my mind how people are like, hey, I'm gonna do more schooling regardless of if I feel like it'll help me because they don't want to take a breath and be like, hey, you know what? Let's see what's out there. They'd
Yeah.
rather like stay busy because they've been busy their entire life. All of high school, they had stuff to do. Post secondary, they have stuff to do.
Yeah.
Now they have this time where they
Hmm.
don't have as much to do. They just have to apply for jobs. They're like, no, I got to do more. I got to do more. Like if I'm not getting a job right away, I got to do a master's. And I'm like,
It's I received this advice a couple days ago. I'm just talking to someone who's been in the job industry for a long time. Very successful individuals.
mm,
And they're saying when you're looking for a job, whatever that is, if you're going to be self-employed, if you're going to work for someone else, it can take a while.
yeah,
Like, you might have to do some volunteering. You might not be employed for a couple months, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's this, okay, I have to do this next thing because I graduated. Oh, I have a degree now, so I have to be employed right away. But if you're, moving towards what you want, regardless of how fast you're going, I mean, what do they say? Slow and steady always wins the race.
yeah.
Some people go flying out the gate right away, and then they die off, and they can't keep their pace.
That's an
I
extreme
didn't want to just say
example.
I don't want to just say die, like actually die, but they fall off, they slow down, they lose pace, they can't keep up. And then that guy who's been going slow and steady, and I think that's the beauty of that slow progress. I feel like we've talked about this before.
Mm,
That slow progress every single day. Even if it doesn't feel like you're doing, because social media has blown this up. Some people think that all these 22-year-olds are just working 30 hours a day and they're never sleeping and it's all this bullshit, but that's not reality. If you're being consistent, even if it's slow, but it's intentional and you're doing it every day, you're getting a little bit better. Eventually, you're going to get to that thing you want. It
yeah.
could take a really long time, but there's this hyper bullshit theory that I need to be doing something right now, immediately, and oh, because, but yeah, I don't actually want to do it. It's just the people telling me that I should be doing it, and I don't want to look like an idiot, and I'm unemployed, and that's uncomfortable, and I don't want to think about anything, so I'm just going to go do more.
Yeah.
And it's so true, like what you're saying about people just going back to school because they don't want to slow down and be like,
Yeah.
okay, what am I doing next? It's so easy, and I'm experiencing this so much right now for what, in 18 years, 19 years, however long of my life, school. That is what I'm doing. When I was in the middle of university, it was so easy. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm studying. I'm in school. This is what I'm doing. Oh, great, cool. That's all. No more follow-up questions. Now it's, oh, hey, what you doing? I'm like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that thought is terrifying. And that's
Right.
why a lot of people don't want to slow down. They
Yeah.
don't want to think about what am I actually going to do next.
So we've been taught a lot of things about rest. The importance of rest, and I feel like it's said to us not only by like parents but by like teachers when like exams are coming up, like, oh, prioritize your sleep and all that.
Yes.
Why do we feel guilty when we take those moments, and we slow down or we take that rest? Now I have an answer for that. Because I feel like it's tied to, we hear a lot of people say you'll sleep when you're dead. Um, and I feel like
Die tomorrow.
right. I feel like it's like a cultural message, and I feel like a lot of
Hmm.
people when they grew up where value wasn't tied to like doing something you love, but it was tied to performance or
Mm.
achievement. Like, like, oh, you got this result, proud of you type of thing.
It's not the effort you put in.
Right. And I feel like because that's how we've grown up, maybe by like those around us, that like now that's what we tie even today, like our value to. So it's like if I'm not where I need to be, then like I'm not doing what I'm not
Hmm.
like no one should be proud of me. I'm not worthy, I'm not enough type of thing. And we
Yeah.
tend to build that sort of negative mentality, and I feel like it harms us more than anything.
I'll slowing down does not mean being lazy. There's a difference. Some people are lazy is not good. Not doing anything is not good, right? There's I would suppose maybe places here or there for that, right? Like if you're on vacation maybe or whatnot, but not doing anything is not what we're advocating for.
Right.
It's slowing down so you can figure out exactly where you want to go. I think that's what we're trying to talk about. The quality of your work, not the quantity of it. So I completely agree. Like it's all placed on, oh, you got an A, but wait a minute, I got a C plus, but I busted my ass all year to get the C plus.
Yeah.
Like I worked really hard and I was patient with myself and I figured out exactly where to go and I didn't rush the process.
Right.
The grade might not reflect that, but that's how hard I was working.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why a lot of people don't want to take the moment because they don't want to look like they're lazy.
Mm. So we're talking about slowing down. Can you think of any moments or instances in your life where you've exemplified that, where you've slowed
So
down?
I think slow down is a great what's the synonym is being mindful,
Mm.
being present. So anytime I go on a walk, no headphones, no technology, no nothing. It's just me. And that like sometimes I'm literally listening to the birds in the cars and like just looking at the people that I see walking past me. Sometimes I'm having a conversation with myself. But whatever it is, I'm very much in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to a podcast. Although if I was listening to a podcast, it'd be Life in Moments. Just putting it out there. Anywho, I'm not listening to that. I'm not listening to music. I'm not whatever. I'm just trying to be focused on what's happening. And I find a lot of my issues I can, hash out with myself while I'm just walking.
Yeah.
What about you?
I feel like right now my life is slowed down. Like before it
Hmm.
was full-time work or full-time school, and now I'm sort of in like this like part-time work and part-time
Hmm.
school where I'm just like finishing everything out, and I'm trying to like and it was in this moment where we discussed, or like maybe just before this moment where we discussed doing this, and where I like discovered that like, hey, is doing what I'm doing truly what I want to do? And I asked myself these questions, and I feel like that helped me a lot, and it gave me a sense of like I know what I want to do in my life, and it wasn't what I was doing when I sort of like switched off and like went with the flow and like was doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it provided me with a sense of I'm doing what's right for me.
I know what you're trying to say. I think this is a task or a challenge for people listening.
Mm,
What Nav just said of actually slowing down and asking himself, am I doing what I want to do? And figuring that out. And you might have no idea what you actually want to do. But if you're doing something that you really know you don't want to do, well, then maybe you got to figure that out. And it's so difficult because some people have families and all of this stuff, all these responsibilities. There's so many and that just makes the task more difficult. So if you're in a position like myself or Nav, where you're just maybe finishing up school, maybe you're still in school, maybe you just finished school, you don't have a family that's relying on you or anything like that, now is the time to really take a risk, to spend the money, to do whatever you're going to do to try to position yourself better. But it all starts with having to reflect.
yeah.
So many, it's like that is such a cliche in a book or a movie or some shit. Where it's like the person doesn't want to slow down and actually think about anything because they know if they do, all of this stuff is going to catch up to them and they're going to realize oh wait, no, this is not where I want to be in my life.
Yeah.
And then they have a midlife crisis because they're like, what the hell? What am I doing with myself?
Yeah.
So if you actually slow down and take the time to think, I think that's I think that's going to be really beneficial, which is also because sometimes I think people are busy because they want to be in control of
Mm.
of either themselves, their environment, or the people around them.
Yeah.
So, do you think we're able to discern the difference between being busy to be in control or actually having things to do that are productive? Like, what's the difference there?
Breaks down into the decisions that you make in each step. And you have to look into why you made those decisions because oftentimes you're making those decisions when your mind's shut off and it's like this is what you've been
Mhm.
doing. But sort of
Yeah.
when you dive deeper into the intent of why you're making this decision, that's when you can sort of like assess and make changes and reflect because it's only when you change those actions or you alter those actions is change gonna come. And it's not gonna
Amen.
if you do the same routine every day and expect change to come, it's not gonna come because where in those
Oh,
actions did you
Snap,
make a
talk
change
to
for
him,
it to
man.
come?
Talk to him. That is such, I completely agree with that. That's so crazy. It's like, I don't know if you've ever, did you watch TV much when you were growing
I
up?
watch a lot of TV. Yeah.
There's one commercial, I think it was about Febreze or something,
Mm.
where you were in your own house, you get so used to the smell, but then when other people come in, they're like, what the fuck is that smell? And then you spray the Febreze because you get so used to just the
Yeah.
thing that's always been there.
Yeah.
But once someone actually points out, hey, what the hell is that? Then you're like, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing that for? But you just had your brain shut off for so long.
Yeah.
It's like you're not thinking about anything. You're just going through the motions. So there's so many times since I started dating my girlfriend where
Shout out
not
Sarah.
shout out Sarah, not aggressively or in any mean way, but she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Just like genuinely wondering what I'm doing, and I
Yeah.
have no answer. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. And then I'm able to correct that, or maybe do something that's a little bit more productive
Mm.
instead of just continuing on the same way.
Yeah.
'And then once you get into that different mode, once you take a step back, you slow down for a moment, you look at what you've done, you look at maybe where you want to go, I question why the hell wasn't I doing it this way in the first place? If this is just so much more productive, this is better, or I feel more fulfilled. Like, why didn't we start this podcast a lot sooner, right?
Yeah.
Like, if we actually look back and analyzed all of that. But
Right.
like I said to Rick, life only makes sense in reverse, but you got to live it going forward. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like we also mentioned like because it was like a cultural thing. We view
Mm,
rest as disappoint or like you're not doing enough and right you said like oh it's late like you're viewing it as oh you're lazy when you take a breath or you take a beat. Um, but I feel like a lot of good comes from rest.
mm,
I feel like a spike in creativity can
mm,
result from when you take a rest. So I feel like why when we know and it's always echoed to us, especially before big things and big exams, to hey, take a rest. Like make sure you get your sleep.
take a
Make sure you
breather.
take a breather, reflect. Like why is it so hard? And I feel like although it might be a tough decision, I feel like it's important that we have to give ourselves permission to take those
Mm.
few minutes or whatever it might be. Like
That's, that's your comment about like before an exam, taking it. People are saying, don't cram for the entire night before. Get a good sleep, wake
yeah,
up, feel refreshed. I don't know how many times when I would be in high school before a test or something, where my parents would always be like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. the night before, as long as you've properly studied, just you're done. Stop, maybe go for a walk, do
yeah,
something, read something else, or just relax for a moment. You've done the work. And that's also important. If you're putting in the work, then it's okay to take the rest. It's
mm,
okay to do something else. But if you're just one of these people that doesn't put in any work, I think that's where the issue gets. Some people are always slowing down.
yeah,
But you have to find like there's times where you're going through a school zone. You have to slow down.
yeah,
But then there's also times where you're on the highway and you got to be going fast.
mm,
So it's just about finding those periods. Like you're saying, you're in a slowed period. That doesn't mean you're not doing anything.
yeah,
That doesn't mean you're being lazy. You still have work. You're still doing a podcast. You're finishing up school. You're working out physically. You're doing all of these things, but you're also paying more attention to everything. You're
Yeah.
being more intentional. And then once you find that one thing, okay, now it's pedal to the metal. Let's go all out.
Yeah. I saw this cool question, and it's what if we as humans had redefined productivity to include peace?
Hell yes.
And I really like that because I feel like it changes your perspective a little bit, and it's you're gonna view everything differently, and I feel like instead of oh, this was a good day because I accomplished this and this, like it was a good day strictly because of the output. It's a good day because how you felt because of it.
Yes.
And I feel like I have over here, I wrote a note, and it's all about reclaiming routines that prioritize presence versus pressure.
Ooh.
And I feel like that's really powerful. You know, presence is something we talked about, and we will probably continue to talk about because that's
It's
what
so
this whole,
important.
it's so important. This podcast is literally called Life in Moments.
Yes, it's about being present in your moments.
Um,
Oh, and I think that is such a great quote.
yeah,
That really, and it's so interesting because it is really our environments and our parents, the schools we go to. Some schools place so much pressure on the output, on the outcome, right? You have to have the great grades. You have to get the scholarship, and this and that and the other thing, and you have to be doing your extracurriculars, and you have to be doing this, and you
yeah,
have to be. But then you have other schools in different parts of the world that want to build a really good human being. And that might mean you go a little bit slower. But now this person's well-rounded, they know how to be polite, they can speak well, they have a better sense of who they are
yeah,
because they weren't just doing all this shit that they didn't even think they wanted to do.
right.
Parents are telling them to do it, teachers are telling them to do it. It's going to look good on a college application. I understand you have to play the game to a certain
Yeah, you do
extent.
have to play the game. That's
Like,
important.
yeah, I completely get it. But you can play the game and also prioritize in certain aspects slowing down,
Yeah,
trying to figure out who you actually are. And if you place peace, is some people all they want is, a spouse in whatever way, a life partner,
yeah,
maybe some kids, maybe a dog, and that's all they need.
yeah,
They don't need nothing else. They don't need all the money. They don't need to be known and anything like that because that is what is so important to them.
right.
They're great with the slow life.
Yeah,
Or the calm life, I think, would be a better use of that word.
yeah. Um, it's kind of funny. Like it kind of reminds me of like like sometimes like I work in like IT right now. And I feel like a lot of solutions often come from like powering off and powering back on. And it's something so simple that you don't even think about it. And it's like machines are doing it. And I feel like that's so applicable. And this is why
God.
I actually selected this quote to end it off, and it's not like the most inspiring quote, but I feel like it's very cool, and it's kind of fresh. I've never heard it before. It's by an American novelist called Anne Lamott, and it says, "Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes."
I don't want to just leave it on that.
I
I
kind of
want to
like not.
talk. I
I
want
kind
to
of like.
talk about it. It's so good. That's the best quote you've had.
Oh, shut up, man!
Literally, you know how many fucking computer problems I've had in like the past 2 weeks? And the first thing my dad always says, "Did you shut it off and turn it back on?"
Yeah.
If you're having life problems, why aren't you shutting? Okay, not like shutting it off, but taking a step back.
Pull the plug.
Why, Jesus, that took a dark turn. But why aren't you taking a step back,
Yeah.
reevaluating everything, looking at what you got going on, and then, okay, now I can re-enter,
Right.
right? Like some people lose their jobs and they can bounce back so quickly because they take the moment, like, I'm not just going to rush back. I'm going to take a moment. I'm unplugging from the workforce. I'm going to re-examine what I want to do. And then when I re-enter, I'm going to know where I want to go.
Yeah.
You slow down to speed up.
Right.
Like if you're lane changing, sometimes you have to speed up, sometimes you have to slow down. Hey, if you're making a turn in your car, you're not going your full speed. You're gonna crash. If you're making a turn, you're going a different
Yeah.
direction. Just like in
Oh.
life, you're going a different
Good
direction.
one.
You have to slow down to make that change.
Yeah.
And then you can speed back up and get going again.
That was a good one. All right. Oh, you cooked with that one. You cooked with that one. That was.
That just came out of my head, man.
And I feel like that brings us to the quote of the day. Um, You might have heard it before. I'm gonna keep the first time I read it in. I'm gonna keep the second one. It's by an American novelist named Anne Lamott. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. And it says, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes.
And with that, I'm Caleb. That's Nav. This is Life in Moments. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. We're just getting going. We love you. We'll see you next time.